It's another big week of releases as developers scramble to get their games out before the end of the year, with 1.0 releases, Metroidvanias, some great looking games with throwback art, and really everything in between. So let's begin with SANABI A Haunted Day, a free DLC to one of the best action platformers. This is a self-contained prequel, introducing a new playable protagonist set 13 years before the events of the main game, which follows Major Song during her service as she's dispatched to investigate a suspicious robot scrapyard on the outskirts of Hanyang. This character controls differently from the protagonist of the main game, focusing on double jumps, a burst mode to defend from attacks, and using airborne maneuvers to dominate with her signature shotgun, which is different to the grappling hook based mobility while still retaining the same characteristics, speed and action. The scrapyard area will bring new levels, new enemies and new challenges, with an intriguing story setup as well, making this game even better. For all the hype around Halloweeny games, there doesn't seem to be the same sort of enthusiasm around Christmassy, wintry games, with Light Up the Town looking to change that. This cozy, family-friendly decorating game is set in the snowy town of Bellflower, Colorado, where you play as a determined young ferret racing to illuminate the town before the annual winter festival. With the local electrician unexpectedly sidelined and a blizzard closing in, Bean takes it upon herself to brighten every street, storefront and rooftop one string of lights at a time. Throwing Christmas lights and other festive decorations is the only mechanic, and they stick dynamically to buildings and objects, so you can turn each of the handcrafted levels into a fun canvas. As you decorate the town and interact with the other animal residents, you'll find coins that you can collect to unlock even more lights and decorations, being a very charming game with a low barrier to entry that anyone can play and have fun and can be a cute Christmas gift. Time Snatcher Handy is a stylish, time-bending bullet hell roguelite starring Handy, a phantom cat thief who steals a mysterious artifact. After snatching a clock hand from the Time Museum, Handy gains the power to freeze time itself, and must now use this new power to make his escape. Gameplay revolves around the most important resource, which is time, where defeating enemies gives you time shards, but each action taken burns through the clock, and when that time meter hits 0, the game rewinds back to the moment Handy touched the clock hand, resetting the run. Freeze time at strategic moments to dodge the bullet hell patterns, reposition to attack, then resume time to continue playing, adding a fun risk-reward tension as you don't want to overuse this power. Create a build with different items collected during the run, combining synergies and unlocking new costumes that alter the gameplay, with time manipulation always being an interesting mechanic, so it definitely has my attention. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. Another bullet hell roguelite with an interesting twist is Identifile Desktop Dungeon, a fast and chaotic title where your entire operating system becomes a dungeon and you're the mouse cursor fighting for its life. After a devastating virus cripples your PC, you awaken as the cursor itself, tasked with diving into corrupted folders, cleaning malicious files and reclaiming your system before it crashes for good. Each folder on your PC is basically a different procedurally generated dungeon packed with hazards, loot, and random events like wacky minigames or scam advertisements. Combat plays out like a bullet hell, with movement being as fast and precise as your mouse can be. There are powerful EXE files that work like upgrades as you build and synergize loadouts across 100 plus randomized loot drops and 30 plus specialized EXEs, with there also being over a dozen unique mouse cursors that you can unlock and play as, each with different stats, along with a number of modifiers and difficulty levels to make the runs more challenging, looking really unique, and it's great to see more experimental titles like this one. Veterum is a turn-based tactical strategy RPG set in a dark fantasy world where you command last army of the Order of the Gatekeepers to halt an impending apocalypse. Play as the commander of this army and recruit humans, dwarves, elves, and the half-feral Turans and lead them across a dangerous open world filled with quests, artifacts, and shifting politics. Exploration is non-linear, so you can travel freely across the procedurally generated map, take on random battles, discover rare equipment, and upgrade your troops. Each playthrough reshuffles the entire world to ensure that every campaign stays fresh, Combat is where this game stands out, as there are many mechanics involved in the battles, including morale, fatigue, line of sight, weather, and many more, so it demands careful planning and positioning from you, and nearly every object in the environment is interactable, letting you build barricades, dig trenches, chop trees, freeze rivers, or light up the battlefield to expose night creatures. There are also one-time scrolls you can use before fights to alter the conditions, like summoning rain or deploying catapults. The game lets you customize it to your liking with a number of difficulty parameters to adjust, and there's even a map editor where you can make your own missions and then share them online. The developers of this game also made another very similar title called War Banners, where I think that both of these are worth checking out. Other games begin with A.I.L.A, a first-person horror game about testing the next-generation artificial intelligence capable of generating fully immersive simulations. You play as a lone game tester, evaluating this experimental system, stepping into a series of handcrafted scenarios that grow increasingly personal as the AI learns from your reactions. What begins as routine feedback quickly becomes a descent into horror experiences that target your deepest fears, blending virtual spaces with scenarios that feel uncomfortably real. Each scenario explores a different branch of the genre, so you navigate survival horror segments where a ritualistic cult hunts you through a forest and abandoned structures, then shifts towards action horror, fighting medieval undead in visceral combat. Then there are also psychological horror scenarios where environments are oppressive spaces with disorienting puzzles. A.I.L.A, the villain AI, adapts to your actions and creates new sequences based on how you play, turning your own playstyle into material for the next nightmare. This comes to us from the developer of Phobia and Saint Dina Hotel, which are pretty well received, so fans of the genre should check this out. A pixel art roguelite worth a look is Abandoned Archive, a fast-paced spell-casting-oriented game set within a forgotten tower sealed deep underground. A strange sentient orb named Oblom, claiming to be an exile of scientific origin, becomes your partner and guides you through the tower while protecting you in exchange for your aid. The bond with Oblom moves the narrative and gameplay, as the orb must be defended in combat, and will slowly reveal more about the world's history as the game progresses. Explore the ruins of the world of Turim, uncovering traces of the Orbites, their experiments, and the synthetic horror sealed at the base of the tower. It does look like a typical action roguelite with combat and the various floors containing relics and upgrades. However, the spell crafting is where it gets interesting, since there are over 40 of them from different types like lightning and air to stranger ones such as gravity and time. Every spell can be augmented and combined through branching upgrades that alter their behavior, while relics provide passive abilities that open up new synergies, so if you love Wizard of Legend, this might be of interest. Afallon is an open-world RPG that kind of looks like World of Warcraft, taking inspiration from MMOs, but critically this is single player only, which has some interesting implications. Like in MMOs, you're creating your own hero, which is defined by your choices, the equipment you get, and the class you spec into. It has a robust character creator where you can choose from multiple races and classes, each offering a number of unique abilities and stat bonuses, creating your ideal hero to leverage on strengths, or go in the opposite direction and just create a freak show of a character. The classic archetypes of the genre are here, with spellcasters, melee fighters, or archers being possible to make, after which you are thrown into the handcrafted open world and set off on adventure. Resource gathering and crafting are essential, with ore, herbs, and materials used to make items and equipment, with combat really resembling an MMO with how damage cones work and how the numbers are displayed. The game's world is dynamic, so your actions can make permanent changes to camps and towns, and stronger enemies show up as you level up. There are also themed dungeons with multi-boss encounters and challenge stones which act as shorter trials scattered throughout the world, with wave battles, platforming challenges, and even mini-boss arenas resembling Aaron Shaw from earlier this year and could be pretty neat. Apes Warfare is a colourful turn-based tactics game where apes wage war across grid-based battlefields with a focus on smart unit composition, terrain, and adaptive tactics. Choose and deploy a variety of monkey squads on each mission, all with distinct strengths, weaknesses, and special skills. You unlock more powerful troops by capturing labs mid-battle, adding a fun strategic layer of map control. Forests, jungles, mountains, and roads all affect the movement, visibility, and combat effectiveness of your troops, with weather changing up the battlefield, forcing you to rethink your strategy on the fly. It has a story-driven campaign that introduces new tools as you progress, and is great to learn the mechanics. You can also take your skills online and face players worldwide in competitive multiplayer battles, and is pretty much Advance Wars but monkey. But do note that it will be an early access release with more campaigns in the future as well as a map editor. A spooky 2.5D platformer is Ayasa Shadows of Silence, a dark atmospheric game shaped by moral choices and surreal symbolism. The inverted world once thrived under Tas the Absolute, but war and corruption fractured the fragile balance between light and darkness, and now Ayasa must embark on a journey through ravaged realms in a war that is both external and internal. The story has no spoken words at all, and everything is shown through character actions and symbolic imagery. Gameplay mixes platforming, stealth sections, and environmental puzzles, all with a light and shadow mechanic where you're using light to reveal hidden paths or activate different machines. The levels are all themed around different concepts like faith, hope, greed, and many more, and they have many moral choices where you can act with compassion or indifference, changing the outcome. There's definitely some little nightmares and limbo in this, so while not quite the season for it, does still look pretty promising. Captain Wayne Vacation Desperation is a hand-drawn boomer shooter with a wacky Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic where after losing his arm to the legendary vampire whale, Wayne replaced it with All Reliable, a shotgun grafted straight into the socket, and when a band of mercenaries steals his ship and leaves him stranded, he storms Orca Island to blow apart every killer whale who wronged him. Wield a varied arsenal that goes beyond your shotgun arm as you switch to chain gun fingers, throw explosives, channel thunder through your palms, and more. The main campaign features 8 huge areas that cover different zones of the island, each with a number of handmade cartoon cutscenes, and there's also an endless mode that adds replayability, having a lot of personality and looks like old school fun. Another title with an old-school cartoony style is Dancin Divas, a pixel art beat-em-up with vibes that will remind you of the old Simpson arcade games, but with 4 over-the-top divas as characters. A robbery interrupts a worldwide treasure showcase, and the 4 protagonist divas decide to take justice into their own hands. Each character has unique combos and elemental abilities, with Viva being the balanced fighter with lightning powers, Hina slinging long-range fire attacks, Bahati smashing enemies with pro wrestling moves, and Sophia fighting with windy quick combos. It plays like a classic beat-em-up with dozens of combos, along with minigames to try and even branching paths that results in replayability. There's also an in-game shop with unlockables, and does have a charming pixel art presentation resembling Pizza Tower or Anton Blast and looks like fun. Death in Abyss is a low-poly on-rails shooter set in an underwater alien landscape, and seems to have strong inspirations from games like Star Fox 64. You pilot a highly maneuverable craft built for speed and aggressive firepower, exploring the deep darkness of an alien sea where everything wants you dead. Each dive takes you deeper into pitch-black waters filled with hostile lifeforms that rush you in deadly swarms, and killing them to harvest their life force is the only way to restore your health. The environments and creatures go for a creepy horror style that gets more disturbing the deeper you dive into the ocean, with the low-poly PSX era graphics and analog terminal aesthetics for the UI fitting the game really well. An anime-style graphic adventure that looks great is Detective Instinct Farewell My Beloved, a mystery-driven detective adventure game inspired by Japan's classic adventure game era and crime fiction, most likely from the 1980s. A woman completely vanishes from a cross-country train, leaving no trace, so it is up to you to solve the mystery, but the truly unsettling part is not her disappearance itself, but the fact that you're the only person who can recall her ever being there. investigate pre-rendered environments, interrogate a colourful lineup of suspects, and use classic command-select actions to pursue leads, check nodes, and find contradictions. The design encourages using your deduction rather than brute forcing your way through, which makes each new discovery feel rewarding as the mystery unfolds. The cast of characters is brought to life with expressive pixel art portraits, many unique interactions, and optional dialogue choices, so it seems very easy to get invested in the story, definitely having some Ace Attorney vibes. FrostBound is a roguelite deck-building tower defense game set in a world swallowed by eternal winter, where what's left of civilization clings onto survival behind frostbitten walls. 4 factions struggle for control, while cultists, ghouls, and exiles stalk the ruins from the shadows. Steel, tech, magic, and faith all intertwine into humanity's final line of defense as an unending horde advances. Mix faction playstyles to unlock surprising synergies, upgrading elite cards mid-battle to match these escalating threats, and decide whether to strike or reposition, knowing that the code itself forces most units to retreat after acting, which leaves only your sturdier structures and elite warriors to hold the line. With more than 500 cards, 100 upgradable buildings, 70 enemy types, and 10 heroes with signature skills, this game gives you an absurd amount of variety to build decks with varied playstyles, and is a different kind of game in this genre. Glory Hunters is an action-adventure game with Game Boy-inspired pixel art and a unique twist, where your progression is tied to earning achievements. Play as one of the Glory Hunters, warriors facing a world-ending threat as a massive celestial object is about to strike Earth. To stop it, you must seek out one of the 4 ancient gods, awaken their vessel, and gather enough glory to save the land. Nearly every action can grant achievements like clearing dungeons, aiding townsfolk, beating bosses, or even avoiding combat, and those achievements feed into your pool of glory points, the game's main currency used to open paths, unlock upgrades, and continue your adventure. Gameplay is heavily inspired by the 2D Zelda games, with a huge semi-open world map full of characters and minigames, and many dungeons made of interconnected small rooms. The game features over 20 hours of gameplay with strong replay value, thanks to the branching paths, different gods that you can awaken, and different difficulty modes, including one with permadeath. The Game Boy inspired graphics look awesome, and due to the unique achievement mechanic, makes it the hidden gem of the week. A bullet heaven roguelite with great pixel art is Grimdark Survivors, a game that brings the grimdark aesthetics of Warhammer 40k to the genre that Vampire Survivors made famous. Perhaps a bit of an unfortunate timing, since the official Warhammer Survivors was just announced, so perhaps that's why they're also rushing to get it out the door. The playable characters and enemies here look very Warhammer 40k, so you can play with Big Macs and Space Marine looking characters, having a weapon merging mechanic as its differentiator, and also does seem to be taking more inspiration from Brotato with the confined arenas. One of the most graphically impressive titles of the week is Hail to the Rainbow, a story-driven first-person shooter set in a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk Russia. It follows the story of Ignat, a lonely young man who is one of the few survivors that adapted to the post-apocalyptic reality after a tragic military event. Having lost his parents, he learns to build a solitary life for himself and becomes adept at navigating this landscape until a mysterious email arrives, which disrupts his routine. This game mixes first-person shooter mechanics with logic-based puzzles and narrative exploration as you investigate the abandoned locations and engage in gunfights with diverse mechanical enemies. The graphics are amazing, and the light horror elements seem to be well done, evoking Half-Life of course, coming to us from the developer of 35mm and 7th Sector, which are 2 similar kind of games, the first of which has over 4,000 Steam reviews, so this developer appears to be honing his craft in this very specific genre. Hunter's Moon, a Sovereign Syndicate adventure, is a roguelite deck builder and spin-off of the CRPG Sovereign Syndicate, set in a plague-stricken Victorian steampunk world where corrupted beasts roam the streets and fog-covered forests. The game serves as a standalone prequel, expanding the universe with new locales, foes, and a 4-chapter structure filled with discoveries and branching objectives. Each run sends you deeper into the mystery of the Hunter's Moon, the outbreak that twists natural wildlife into monstrous creatures. With procedurally generated encounters and mission routes, no two investigations will be exactly the same. Between battles, you can interact with characters, unlock lore, and piece together clues about the plague's origins. Choose from 4 distinct agents, each representing a different class, like a brute focused on heavy attacks, a soldier that wields firearms, or an alchemist specialized in potions and explosives. Their abilities shape your starting deck, and you can craft and refine cards from hundreds of variations to tailor your build, also having some permanent progression by upgrading your airship and the agents themselves with a pretty sick looking art style. Incredicer is a clean and simple incremental dice game built entirely around the joy of rolling and watching numbers go up. Roll your dice to earn money, and then quickly expand this simple idea into a layered automation machine where every system feeds into the next. Buy extra dice to multiply income, hire helper hands that automate your rolls, and unlock active skills that let you dump dice onto the table when you want to speed things up. As your setup grows, you extract dark matter from the dice, a premium resource used on a skill tree packed with longer term upgrades, efficiency boosts, and dice enhancements that ramp up your power, resulting in even bigger numbers, which can be so satisfying. Isekat, crushed by a computer, my beloved kitten is transported to a fantasy world where its typing skills save the kingdom. It's an absurdly long title for a game, which is one way to get attention, where you play as a cat who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world as in anime tropes, and then immediately becomes the chosen hero because cats are naturally good with keyboards. In this quirky RPG, every action like attacking, blocking, or opening chests is tied to your words per minute. Dungeons are full of enemies that attack with unique word patterns, and similarly, traps demand fast reactions, and bosses from each kingdom cheat, all of which will test your typing speed and accuracy. Some fights need you to type with rhythm or timing to it instead of pure speed, so you do need to learn about attack patterns and actually look at the game. Outside of combat, you rebuild the Cat Kingdom by gathering catnip and rescuing citizens who return home to repopulate towns, unlocking new systems and mechanics, being a cute, weird title worth a look. Killer Chat Original Edition is a meta horror game where you roleplay as an aspiring writer pretending to be a murderer in order to infiltrate a secret chat room of killers. Get inspiration for your true crime book, flirt with your dangerous correspondence, and avoid calling the cops over the next 6 months or so as you try to complete your book. Your character is customizable, so you decide your name, gender, personality, clothing, and even what kind of serial killer persona you're pretending to be. You interact with 4 different serial killers, each with unique personalities and backgrounds, build relationships through text chats, voice messages, and even video calls, exchange deep conversations, and maybe even fall in love with them, with the short description on Steam ominously asking what could possibly go wrong. The answer, I suspect, is very, very bad things, but the chat UI is interesting with a very disturbing premise and might just go viral for a certain subsector of the internet. The base game is free, but will have DLC, so if you enjoy darker themes, this will certainly be of interest. Kings of Hell is a cool looking cel-shaded 3D beat-em-up inspired by early 2000s titles set 100 years after the Rapture, where Earth has literally become hell. Demons now rule the planet, and 4 anti-heroes set out to defeat the 5 Dukes of Hell to claim the throne for themselves. Choose from a roster of demonic brawlers like a rockstar vigilante, a gentle giant, a gunslinger, and others, each with unique abilities, combos, and fighting styles. Attack to grow your combo meter, which you can then spend at any moment to perform brutal grab attacks. Stages are small sandbox arenas with different gimmicks, like a giant chessboard or the deck of a ship, providing variety, also having multiplayer support and definitely evoking Power Stone, where no one developer has quite managed to nail the spiritual successor, so let's see on this one. The very popular Lost Ember from 2019 is getting a facelift with Lost Ember Rekindled Edition, a gorgeous animal shifting adventure game rebuilt from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, offering the most visually impressive version of the game to date. If you're unfamiliar with this title, it is set in a world reclaimed by nature after the fall of mankind, and the game sends you on a 5-hour journey across vibrant biomes, ancient ruins, and the remnants of the Yanrana civilization, all experienced through the eyes of a wolf, accompanied by a faithful spirit companion. The core mechanic is the ability to possess any animal you encounter, letting you explore from radically different perspectives, soar across massive canyon valleys as a parrot, tumble through fields as a wombat, swim underwater as a fish, or climb cliffs as a mountain goat, with each form opening up new paths. The world itself has a large variety of vibrant landscapes like rainforests, deserts, lakes, and abandoned temples, and thanks to this new addition, they look prettier than ever. Owners of the original game will also receive this upgraded version for free, making it the perfect excuse to re-experience this title. Nano Neighbors is the latest bottom-of-screen idle game, but with a twist, since this has online connectivity where your tiny Android companion lives at the bottom of your desktop, growing, working, and hanging out even while you're busy, but there's a social layer as well, and you can visit your friends' nanos or invite them over to your capsule, also having plans for Discord integration to turn servers into interactive social hubs. Build and decorate a cozy futuristic home for your nano, filling it with furniture, gadgets, and upgrades that makes its space feel personal. Assign tasks like crafting, gathering, research, or special missions to earn rewards that you can reinvest into the customization of both your nano's appearance as well as its home. This is definitely a growing trend in 2025, so I wonder when it will die down, but the online connectivity does provide something different here. A real-time tactical hacking puzzler that looks interesting is NULLPTR, a game where you play as a hacker and every action reshapes the systems of the mega corporations you're infiltrating. With only a tight 20-second window per breach, you reroute connections, collect data, and manipulate the environment, while adaptive defenses constantly react to your behavior. Each movement you make leaves a visible trace that you can erase by retracing your steps, so you have to manage your exposure as you navigate gates, firewalls, and evade sentinels. There are emergent gameplay moments as you discover loopholes, bend the rules, and abuse the defenses so that they work in your favor, and you'll have more than 125 handcrafted stages, and you can master each one with ghost runs where you must finish the stage undetected, having minimalist but very effective pixel art. Ragnar is a roguelite dungeon crawler releasing in early access, looking kind of like Hades but Norse mythology inspired, set in the 9 realms which you access through the branches of Yggdrasil as you stand against the hordes of Loki and try to seize his throne. Each expedition leads you through procedurally generated levels amongst the realms, with every realm having its own hazards, atmosphere, and unique traits. A system of permanent upgrades ensures that each run contributes to long-term progression, allowing steady growth across repeated attempts. Throughout the journey, you'll encounter familiar figures from Norse legend like Thor, Freya, and many others, and interactions with these characters advance the story, and each offers you unique blessings that last for the run, with synergies between blessings encouraging experimentation. So while it looks well made, I fear that this subgenre is a little too overcrowded, so that this might not stand out. A roguelite strategy game with some interesting mechanics is Red Rogue Sea, where you command a pirate ship playing as its captain and crew, navigating a dangerous, ever-shifting archipelago. What makes this game stand out is that it mixes deck-building cards with ship management mechanics, since you pick a unique captain and ship to use for the run, then sail across procedurally generated islands filled with encounters, events, and choices, so each playthrough brings you new discoveries and threats as you interact with adventurers, criminals, fortune seekers, and ordinary folk. Combat combines tactical deck building with ship and crew management, with a customizable deck of upgradable cards that dictate the actions your crew can perform. Your deck can be focused on aggression, resilience, or adaptability, depending on the situation, looking like FTL cross Slay the Spire, and certainly has potential. Repel the Rifts is a roguelite tower defense game releasing in early access, set on an alien world where a mining expedition has spiraled into disaster. Play as a commander tasked with protecting what remains of the operation from relentless waves of creatures that emerge from interdimensional rifts. Each round challenges your defenses to withstand these monsters during the entire night, and after surviving these assaults, you can push deeper into uncharted terrain. revealing new map tiles that shape the tactical layout of your defenses. Certain tower types benefit more from specific geographic positions, so there's a layer of strategy as to how you build, with various upgrades for your towers that either directly enhance them or unlock new effects which can synergize. Commander selection brings further variety, as each begins with 3 unique starting towers, passive traits, and a unique ability that defines their overall playstyle, so learning the strengths and limitations of each commander is critical for both early survival and long-term defensive planning. If you manage to survive 25 nights, you unlock an endless mode that will test your mastery of this game with a great pixel art look as well. A great looking survival roguelite FPS is Slyders, a game that mixes high mobility shooter combat with chaotic bullet hell action. Set across the floating islands of Sky World, it follows Eric's, a fox freedom fighter riding a supersonic battle turtle, and partnered with Brian, a wise jetpack bear, with the goal of dismantling the demon army corrupting the realm and helping the scattered resistance reclaim each island from the overlord's influence. Gameplay centers on rapid movement, overwhelming firepower, and swarms of enemies, essentially being Vampire Survivors but FPS, which might be interesting. You can also deploy turrets, which is different, as well as summon allies like Bernard the Elephant Warrior or Sandy the Sandworm, and while it's not the first game to try first-person Vampire Survivors, this does look pretty well made, with perhaps a dose of mega bonk, and should be fun. After 3+ years in early access, we also have the 1.0 release of The Use of Life, an adventure book style JRPG where every choice shapes the main character's attachments and world view. It is a Japanese title, so some things might be lost in translation, where the choices you make lead to its multiple endings, but crucially doesn't really have any moral implications of good or bad endings per se. Our protagonist's motivations shifts with your decisions, expressed through changing flames that represents his thoughts or convictions. Events unfold as interactive passages, sometimes influenced by dice rolls like a tabletop RPG or JRPG style turn-based combat, but with quick time events. Each turn, both you and the enemy select 3 actions, then alternate executing them, forcing you to anticipate incoming attacks and time your own for maximum effect. Besides leveling up and gaining stats, you can also change between different classes like fighter, mage, samurai, and more. So while it looks like an RPG Maker title, there's a little bit more going on under the hood and looks like a curiosity. An action roguelite that looks pretty good is Umigame, where you take on the role of a powerful water spirit and thus have co-op support for up to 2 players, but can also be played solo. You are sent into a corrupted world that spans the deadly haunted swamp, and the deeper you go, the more you will feel the malicious influence of the witch Maeve, having to become stronger and break free from her will by defeating her cursed abominations. Explore different locations while battling relentless enemies, adapt to ever-changing challenges, and use unique abilities to survive. A key feature is summoning and commanding guardians which fight with you, but otherwise looks like a pretty standard if well-made one of these. There is meta progression, as you improve guardians and characters over time with new powers and upgrades, with a variety of unique playable heroes to choose from, as well as an Ascension-like difficulty system to ramp up the challenge once you're done with the base game. So let's see where this goes in early access. Another title with great hand-drawn art is Vindilis, a 2D Souls-like platformer set on a desolate island in a dark Celtic fantasy setting. The island's lord, known only as the Omniscient, has descended into madness, unleashing 4 devastating plagues upon the people who dare to rebel against him, where you play as a hero named Fury, who is the island's last hope against this ancient power. Embark on an epic quest for vengeance across the land, traversing 5 handcrafted levels, defeating enemies and facing challenging bosses. Combat is brutal and precise, with attacks and dodges in typical Souls-like fashion, with a focus on your skills rather than upgrading your stats. Since the game is a short-form experience, the adventure is meant to be intense, clocking in at approximately 1 to 2 hours of playtime, where I hope that this is not just all style and no substance. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. one of the most ambitious looking titles of the week is Of Ash and Steel, a gothic medieval action RPG that looks very immersive. It is a single-player, open-world experience that puts you in the harsh, unforgiving realm of the Kingdom of the Seven. Step into the shoes of a man named Tristan who is destined to become much more, starting off as a relative nobody as he makes his way in the world, survive, gain strength, and forge alliances, eventually gaining the power to shape the fate of the entire world. But start small and make your way there. This world has no marker system, so curiosity must be your guide as you explore, stumbling upon towns and villages, taking on quests that take you off the beaten path, and interact with a cast of interesting characters. Combat features 3 distinct battle stances and a stamina bar that you must manage, while you time your attacks and parries, with the choice of weapon greatly affecting how your character controls. You can also master different professions like fishing, hunting, and blacksmithing, along with 2 major factions to join, each with their own rewards and decisions that affect the world around you. The game promises a large main story and seems to be somewhere in the realm of Kingdom Come Deliverance. As of recording, it is supposed to be out, but apparently it's facing technical difficulties with launch, but is still supposed to release this week, so keep an eye on it. Afterblast is a challenging roguelite first-person shooter releasing in early access with both solo and online co-op support, throwing you into an evil god's realm in order to save your home planet. After being granted immortality by your creator, you must now find a way to slay the evil forces and become a true god hunter. Defeat hordes of monsters across various dungeons and open maps in fast-paced shooter action while constantly searching for magic chests that gives you different upgrades, perks, items, and weapons to craft your build. You also utilize a chain hook to move faster and perform satisfying finishes on weakened enemies. Looking to evoke modern Doom, it has 2 primary game modes, one that sees you delving into dungeons and the other to survive for as long as possible against invading forces in larger, more open maps, with meta progression elements as well, and does look pretty good. Ars Notoria is another epic-looking open-world survival crafting game following in the footsteps of games like Enshrouded, and similarly is set in a rich fantasy world where you have to stand against the ever-shifting threats of the Enthralled as a hero who is destined to change the kingdom. Gain influence across the lands and join one of several in-game factions, each with its own unique storyline and branching narratives that allow your choices to shape the fate of the world. Venture out alone or in online co-op with friends to explore a vast, dangerous open world full of diverse biomes, dungeons, and ruins. Combat is mostly done in groups, and even while playing solo, you can build a team of adventurers, each filling different roles and can switch between them during battle. It has 6 distinct schools of magic for you to master, which allows you to craft unique spells or enchant gear with magic, along with an extensive modular base building system which can be automated, allowing your home to grow into a settlement and beyond even while you're away, looking very ambitious and could be Valheim levels of huge. We also have the 1.0 release of Cross Splits, where I always have a soft spot for the pixel art of this developer, and is an RPG deck builder telling stories of the characters as they go on adventures, mixed in with strategic card battles. The game takes place on Cross Dawn Isles, where you embark on character-driven campaigns like helping the pirate Redcroft, who strikes a deal to win back his stolen freedom, or the pop star Violet, who is searching for a mystical artifact to stop a doppelganger from hijacking her stardom. The card game presents you with a 2x4 grid for your cards, placing units, casting spells, setting traps, and unleashing match-finishing blitz bursts, being more akin to Magic the Gathering instead of Slay the Spire. The main story modes are linear campaigns, but they did add Tusk Tales, a roguelite mode that offers endless replayability, offering something for both kinds of players, with the 1.0 release, I believe, adding 2 new character campaigns with a possible third to come as post-launch content, where it has reviewed well so far, so do give this a look. One more banger to squeak out before the end of the year is Constance, a beautiful hand-drawn Metroidvania that has a lot of hype behind it. The plot follows Constance, a paintbrush-wielding artist who is striving to escape from a colourful but decaying inner world created by her declining mental health, by confronting the psychological struggles manifesting as this dangerous reality. The non-linear, interconnected world is strongly linked to Constance's mental health journey, with each biome, enemy, and character representing different aspects of her psyche and personal history. Gameplay features intense action where you must master paint-based mechanics, using your giant brush to dive into the walls or to slice through the air and enemies. By exploring the world, you unlock new abilities, upgrades, and a vast collection of new painting techniques used in combat, but also to solve complex platforming challenges and puzzles. A unique mechanic is the corruption that you get when you use your brush techniques, which brings negative effects, so you must be wary of not abusing your powers. There are also inspirations which you can find and sketch in your journal, which enhances Constance's capabilities, which I believe takes the form of a painting minigame, simply looking well made and very Hollow Knight coded, but is doing its own thing. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.